What would a political party operating on techno-decentralist principles be like? Obviously, it wouldn't literally be called the Techno-Decentralist Party, because that's an awkward bit of word salad I designed for the purpose of being as descriptive as possible, but it would need a totally different name if the agenda was being applied to a party normal people would theoretically vote for. I don't know what that would be at the moment, so preliminarily it will have to be the Techno-Decentralist Party. This is basically just a big LARP anyway. As I have conceived it, techno-decentralism is a doctrine based on decentralizing society through technology applied outside the human being in the form of 3D printing, that is additive manufacturing, and automation, and upon the human being in the form of transhumanism. And this necessarily implies a gradualist program. It has a far mode in its end goal of an automated free society, which I've discussed in previous videos, but it has a near mode in its transitory policies. I will soon outline what I think some of these policies would be in a rough-hewn form. The far principles as ends must be outlined clearly as well, as they must be kept in mind as the road we're carving winds its way towards them. To sum up the far mode, we aim to secure the freedom and ability to own and utilise automated technology, to modify the body for the purpose of creating ever more rugged individuals, and to prepare for an automated society of mass unemployment through the creation of a universal safety net, always endeavouring to spread new decentralised forms of capital such as additive manufacturing and personal robots into the hands of the individual. In government this would be on the back burner, and the near-term gradualist policies must be in operation. These will now be outlined in a rough first-to-hand form. Cultural policy. We must bring in a written constitution for Britain to make our legal rights more secure from being voted away. We must secure an equivalent of the First and Second Amendments to the US Constitution. We will affirm equality before the law, the legality of all speech in and of itself, free speech, the right to own property, and the right to keep and bear arms. We will end government mass surveillance of citizens. Economic policy. Gradual transference of the dole to a basic income to prepare for an automated society, in line with increasing technological unemployment as we go forwards. The basic income will not be fully realised until automation lowers the cost of production. End the state contribution to pensions and transfer that to a basic income too, with existing pensions having the state portion returned to them as a dividend as of now. The government must cease to fund any higher educational courses that are not future focused. The social purpose of education being to prepare for work, the focus must be on courses useful to an increasingly automated economy. Education must undergo budgetary reapportioning to STEM, and make all other higher education paid for privately in full, sweeping all other courses off the teat of public finance. This should lead to massive savings in education spending, while at the same time concentrating far more of the spending on the areas that are vital going forwards. Preserve the NHS but charge people for obesity and smoking-related illnesses, or other brought on by negligence, and have an income cap above which you pay for services. The NHS should be free at the point of use for the poor and deserving. Free small business from red tape and occupational licensing, making businesses with small numbers of employees much freer to operate, lowering costs and allowing them to compete with the big boys. Make it easier to start businesses in the first place. Do not raise the minimum wage, as A, it is a fixed cost per extra worker that hits small businesses the hardest, leading to layoffs of employees, and B, we are heading towards a future of mass unemployment anyway, and so must focus on the safety net side of the equation instead of micromanaging the market mechanism on the wage level. Secure land property rights against eminent domain. Gradually reduce copyright and patent terms. Secure net neutrality. Oppose restrictions on 3D printing, additive manufacturing. Affirm a right to own robots for industrial and individual purposes. Keep rail and the post privatised. Lower VAT, which is a regressive tax, with compensation with other taxes if necessary. Allow more houses to be built to lower the cost of housing. Houses being treated as investments has frequently led to mandated restrictions on supply that only push up the price. Keep in place the subsidisation of alternatives to fossil fuels. subsidise the automation of industry and research into AI safety, form an investigatory committee as to whether we can break up the too-big-to-fail banks and financial institutions, national sovereignty and border control, secure a true Brexit, end mass immigration and secure a migration plan that prioritises the benefit to Britain and avoids overburdening our welfare state or destabilising our politics and culture. Put in place visa restrictions for much of the Middle East and Africa, with some exceptions, Israel, etc., and focus on allowing skilled, culturally innocuous immigration from China, India, Singapore, the Commonwealth countries and other places. Visa restrictions for anyone without a university degree in a STEM subject. Put in place a new citizenship test to include a British history test and a Ravens Matrix's IQ test. Ensure that benefits are not available to non-citizens. Use active denial systems to prevent unwarranted channel tunnel crossings. Infiltrate radical mosques so as to disrupt terror operations. Foreign policy. In line with Britain leaving the EU, create a Commonwealth free trade agreement to assist. Maintain the Trident nuclear deterrent. End the wars of regime change to spread freedom and democracy, which have only stirred up Islamic terrorism. Meanwhile, maintain the ability to strike at terrorists and not stabilising elements we might find distasteful. Gradually work towards a non-catastrophic way to dump Saudi Arabia on its fat head and cool off on Israel, re-evaluating the relationship towards mutuality. Work towards non-entangling alliances that are based on mutual benefit instead of one-sided slavery to the aims of others. So that's just a rough overlay of the kind of agenda a party that I could be ideologically aligned to might follow. More of the fine details would need to be hashed out in practice. Of course, this is basically LARPing, since even if such a party did exist, it would never be able to get the voting demographics it needed to challenge the big two parties. Mostly because its agenda is not appealing to regular people, but also because it would be working against the first past the post system, against the Conservatives and Labour, so it could not be. Third parties are actually a complete waste. At least in our system. If we had proportional representation, then that wouldn't be the case, but we don't, so there you go. Bye!